Welcome to the Orientation Podcast Series from the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section. My name is Professor Kyle Kirkup, and I'm the English Common Law Orientation Coordinator and co-host of this podcast. You will also hear on this podcast channel co-host and French Common Law Orientation Coordinator, Professor Anne Lévesque. We are both very excited to welcome you to the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section. Each week, we will release episodes of professors at the Faculty of Law. Our goal is to introduce you to our law school community and to get you excited about the possibilities of your legal education. We will also have conversations on this podcast in both English and French. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube with closed captioning, or wherever you are listening to this episode right now. On today's episode, we speak to Professor Ellen Zweibel and Professor Virginia McRae from the Legal Writing Academy at the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law. Professor Ellen Zweibel has been a professor at the Faculty of Law for over 35 years. She is a professional mediator and teaches conflict resolution skills outside the law school. Professor Zweibel has an LLM in tax law from the University of Denver. Tax policy is a definite passion. Early in her career, she worked at the Federal Trade Commission in New York and private law firms in Boulder, Colorado, and Halifax. Professor Zweibel exercises her left brain teaching the upper year Introduction to Income Tax course and her right brain coordinating and teaching dispute resolution and professional responsibility, an experiential learning course for all first-year law students. Her role as founding director of the faculty's Legal Writing Academy and co-leader of the faculty's transition to online learning team occupies both her left and right brain continuously. Professor Zweibel has received the Desire to Learn Innovation in Teaching Award, the University of Ottawa Excellence in Education Prize, and the Canadian Council of Learning Sharing the Flame Award for her work in teaching conflict resolution skills to health professionals. Professor Virginia McRae started teaching legal writing before computers or online research. She graduated from the University of Windsor Faculty of Law in 1979 and joined the faculty for 2 years to teach legal research and writing. She tried private practice but was miserable, so joined the Department of Justice and had a wonderful career practicing administrative law, human rights law and the Charter, family law, and policy before becoming Assistant Deputy Minister. She also went back to school and completed her LLM thesis in 1991 on the Charter and fair procedure in administrative tribunals. But she could not resist the lure of teaching, so she worked with the Law Society of Upper Canada for 11 years in the bar admission course, teaching legal writing, research, and public law, as well as legal writing at Justice. Full circle now, she is the co-director of Legal Writing Academy at the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law, where she teaches senior level legal writing and social justice, first-year workshops, and the Writing Leadership course. She designs and delivers workshops on effective writing for law firms, government lawyers and departments, tribunal members, justices of the peace, and judges. Welcome to our podcast, Professor Zweibel and Professor McRae, and thank you for being here with us today to talk about legal writing. So I wonder if you could introduce our listeners to the Legal Writing Academy at the University of Ottawa.
Okay, Professor Zweibel here. First of all, you need to know that lawyers are professional writers. There's just no doubt about it. Judges confirm that good writing influences their decisions. Cases are won and lost on the briefs, not just the oral arguments. Senior lawyers, the ones that you're going to be writing for when you go to those internships and summer jobs, they only want to read your work once to understand it. And clients, they want clear communication so that they can make good decisions based on your advice. You will write more in the first 3 months of articling than in all 3 years of law school. Pretty scary, eh? Not really. Dean Dodick and I decided to give our students a huge leg up by putting together programming that thoroughly integrates legal writing instruction into every year of our curriculum. So our legal writing program includes upper year writing seminars that anyone can take. We usually have about 10 a year, and we even have a writing seminar that focuses on social justice writing. We have advanced writing courses. That's where we train our core group of writing leaders. We will give modules in many of your substantive courses. So, and that's in all 3 years. So for example, you're going to meet our writing faculty in your first year small group courses where we come in to do some special writing classes. Then we have workshops on all aspects of legal writing. In fact, in early September, we have a workshop coming up on how to read a case like an expert. We recommend you register for that. And then we have something totally unique to the University of Ottawa, a peer writing mentoring program. We have writing leaders trained to meet with you to help you strengthen your writing. Anyone, don't have to have a writing problem, anyone can meet for a 45-minute conference with one of our writing leaders.
So I wonder then, what is legal writing, right? We're going to have students that are coming into the program that have been writing essays in their undergrads or their masters. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how legal writing is different from how our students might typically write.
All right, here's Professor McRae. I'll answer this one. And perhaps I should start with a short list of what legal writing isn't. Legal writing is not obscure, dense, indecipherable prose that only other lawyers, and maybe not even them, can understand. It's not a secret code language. It's not a foreign language, no matter how many Latin terms you might see. It isn't about complex ideas made even more complex. And contrary to popular belief, lawyers never were paid by the word. So there's really no benefit to writing more than anyone needs to read. And it isn't mechanical or formulaic. It's an art. So what is this art? Legal writing is communicating complex legal ideas in the simplest, clearest way possible. Yes, you're going to need to use specialized terminology in some specific forms, but the goal is always the same: writing so the reader can understand easily. The keys to clear and effective writing are the same for any good writing. You use the fundamentals of those good writing skills and apply them to the needs of solving legal problems. Now, unfortunately, you're going to read a lot of bad legal writing, particularly in first year. And that's because you're reading some old cases. And you need to read these old cases because you need to find the legal ideas, the content, understand the legal principles that you're learning about. But don't be fooled into thinking this is how modern lawyers write. And many of you probably come to law school with the idea that you're going to be great orators, convincing judges of a client's cause, and you probably don't think too much about writing. But lawyers spend far more time writing than they do arguing standing in court. You will write more than most novelists. You will write every day. And how you write will make the difference in your legal career. Your writing is you on the page or the screen. So there are two key areas we're going to be working on in law school to change from what you used to do in undergrad or other professions to thinking and writing like a lawyer. We're going to talk about legal thinking, legal writing, and both take particular skills to manage, because you can't write well if you don't have clear ideas to express, and you can't think well if you can't work well with words. It's the way our brains function. So we're going to focus on great writing and the techniques to get you there. We're going to help you learn and practice legal analysis. But it is going to take attention and focus and practice, practice, practice. So welcome to law school and a whole new way of writing.
So in the fall, professors are going to ask their first year students to write their first law school assignments. And I wonder if you can walk us through some of the steps that students might use to write an effective legal document.
Okay, I'll start that off because more than likely, your first writing assignment comes up in the dispute resolution and professional responsibility course, which I teach. So in the very first class in September, we're going to assign you your first legal memo. It's on a professional responsibility topic, and you'll be answering a senior lawyer's question. The first step is very simple. It's so simple that many students skip it, and then they have to backtrack, or at least we hope they at least backtrack. You need to understand the assignment. What are you actually being asked to do? We have an acronym for it. We call it CAP, or Context, Audience, and Purpose. CAP actually dictates all your writing choices, starting with the legal sources you consult, down to the length and tone of the document. So what do we mean by context? Context is where you answer the question, what happened that required this document in the first place? It's the who, what, where, when, and why, and the how of the problem that you're addressing. When we talk about audience, there we're thinking about who are we writing to? Are you writing to a knowledgeable senior lawyer, a sophisticated business client, a distraught parent of a child suspended from school? Are you writing an argument that you want a tribunal to consider or an appellate level court? And what's the document's purpose? Are you putting together the deal or a contract memorializing what the people decided they wanted to do in their settlement? Are you persuading a prosecutor to drop charges? Are you giving client advice on the likely outcome of a legal case? Or are you writing an academic case comment on a Supreme Court case? All of those things makes a difference. All of these questions have to be thought through before you put your first words down on either your brainstorm notes or your outline or even your first draft. And then we have other important nitty-gritty things that many students ignore. Details like due dates, word counts, headings, how to submit your assignment. You need to put together a checklist at the very beginning, something that you can come back to make sure you've ticked off all the assignment requirements. And let me give you a little heads up. In practice, lawyers often use checklists to make sure that they've put together the documents to submit to court in the right order, with the right font, with the right staples. All of those things have to be taken into account. So those nitty-gritty details, you need a checklist.
Totally agreed. So one technique that we often hear from the Legal Writing Academy is this idea of point first writing. So I wonder if you could describe point first writing for our students and perhaps tell us a bit about why it's important.
Oh, all right. Point first writing is an amazing technique where you tell readers what they need to know in a way they can best use that information. We tell the reader why they need to read something, and then we tell them what they need to know. So why is context, what is detail? Legal readers, clients, judges, other lawyers, even members of the public, don't have time for mystery novels, at least in a legal context. Those mystery novels where the writer dangles clues along the way and then has a big reveal at the end. When you write with the reader's needs in mind, you get to the point quickly, and then you explain the details. Because every reader can understand complex or complicated information if she knows where you're headed. With that result or conclusion in mind, all the details you talk about will now make sense. We don't make that reader figure out how the details fit together. We, as the writers, do all the work. Now, point first writing will be new for many of you because most of us write deductively. We pose a question or a problem, then we explain what information we gather to solve that problem. Then we explore how the information could apply to that problem or not. And then we finally announce the answer. In a legal context, that doesn't work. Every reader flips to the end to see what the judge decided or what your position is, then goes back and starts at the beginning to understand the detail. So point first writing means we announce an answer, and then we explain how we got there. Now the reader can follow with better understanding.
So what should students do after they write their first draft? And I'm guessing you're going to tell us that they shouldn't submit the assignment, which is their first draft.
Oh, no kidding. I routinely ask my students to set legal writing goals. What do you want to do well? What can I help you work on? How can we work on something together? And it's amazing to me, but students routinely tell me they want to be able to fire off a perfect first draft, first time, every time, so that they can save lots of time editing and proofreading. Now, if that's your goal too, sorry to give you the bad news. It's never going to happen. No one writes a perfect first draft. No one. But don't twist yourself in knots because you can't write a perfect first draft. Your first draft will not be great. And guess what? That's not just okay, it is the best way to work. You should expect your first draft to be ugly. You are not carving a monument. You're starting a writing process. And after that first draft, the real work begins. Now you revise and edit. And every writer needs an efficient editing strategy because no one has time to spend rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. So we will show you how to edit and revise in 5 layers, starting with the most important writing choices and working down to proofreading. We've developed an entire website to help you with this most important task, and we're going to show you and guide you through the steps. Once you adopt this technique, your writing will soar, guaranteed.
So how then do students know when they have written a strong legal piece of writing, right? When do they decide, this is the moment where the piece is strong, it's ready to go out, I can submit this to the professor or later in their lives, the client or to the court?
Okay, we have lots of practical strategies for figuring that out. I'm going to give you 3 of my favorites. First of all, try highlighting. If you take a document and highlight just the first sentence of every paragraph, and then create a new document with just the highlighted sentences, you read it and you ask, do the messages make sense? Did I convey what I wanted to convey clearly and in the right order? So you'll figure that out with the highlighted document. Another one I like, can you orally summarize the message in each paragraph? Read the paragraph, say out loud what you think it means, and then ask yourself, is that what I wrote? Is it clear? So that oral summary will help you figure out if you've written it strongly. And finally, this is one that's very exposing. Find a friend, someone who's not in law school, please, and have them read the document. Maybe read a page at a time. And at the end of the page, tell you what they understood. Did they get out of it what you wanted them to get out of it? That would be the sign of a really good document. So those are my 3 favorites, but we have other ones.
It's incredibly helpful. What advice do you have for students who are struggling with the transition to legal writing? I came into law school with a background in humanities, and so I was used to writing these very long pieces that didn't really get to the point, and we're often missing paragraphs with clear topic sentences. So what are some strategies or some advice you can give to students who are trying to make that leap into legal writing?
All right. I was in the same position. I wrote the social science horrors that many students bring now, those skills at least, bring to law school. But I have a law school survival secret to share. Things may get worse before they get better, but do not panic. You may have come to law school with a great writing record, praised for your writing in undergrad, but here you're going to be challenged. And you may think you're not making progress because you don't get it immediately. You may actually get writing feedback that you've never had before, perhaps asking you to write more clearly, write more concisely, write for a new legal reader who has needs different than your previous readers. You're probably going to be uncomfortable and you think you're making mistakes, or perhaps the choices that you made weren't the best in the circumstances. Don't give up. Every writing assignment is just another step in learning. Don't expect to be perfect, or don't be disappointed when you're told it could be better. Of course it could. You're learning something new. There are no mistakes, just learning opportunities. But here's the good news. You can learn this. It takes effort, of course, but the payoff is incredible. Your writing skills define you as a lawyer. And when you invest in yourself and your writing skills, you will be showing employers, ultimately clients and judges, that you know what's important, that you value them by writing clearly, simply, and without mystery. Not every law student will take this on, and that means you will stand out in the crowd. Now, we're told by law firms, judges, government departments, lots of hiring lawyers everywhere, that the University of Ottawa students do stand out because they learned to write. Now, we have unique support for our students here in this law school. So my advice is to take advantage of every writing opportunity, every writing resource that the Writing Academy offers, and work at this essential skill. You will be glad you did.
Yeah, I totally agree. You think about how the tests in particular areas change when the Supreme Court issues a new decision, but the foundation of what we do, legal writing, will always be with us. So I wonder then if you have any advice on resources that might be available for students who want to learn more about legal writing.
Okay, so I'll start. Everyone should take an upper year writing seminar. We have many of them to choose from. We have the basic ones that you don't need to apply for, and then if you're really in for the challenge, you can apply to take one of the advanced courses. Do not leave law school without taking a legal writing seminar. And by the way, we restrict enrollment in these seminars. It's only 16 students, so you get a lot of attention from the professor. Then you have the possibility of scheduling a writing conference with one of our writing leaders. They're not going to write your stuff for you, but they will help you with all kinds of strategies for getting over writing humps, for figuring out what the professor actually meant when they said awkward in the margin of your document. And you don't need to have a writing problem to sign up for a writing conference. Our writing leaders have lots of experiences and ideas to share. We have a resource, a website called pointfirstwriting.com. It's an online resource where you can work at your own pace to practice all the facets of writing legal memos. That's in the module Legal Memos Made Easy. And then we have a module that helps you with the editing process. It takes you through the 5-layer editing strategy. That one's called Edit Your Own Work. So you can drop into those online resources anytime you want. They're right there for you. And many of our students actually tell us that they come back to them when they're doing their summer jobs or when they're articling. We also have a Brightspace Legal Writing Academy resources for students, where we're going to post materials from time to time during the year. You will all be added as students to that Brightspace site in September. And then, of course, we have the special workshops, like how to read a case like an expert, which you can sign up for. So those are some of the things or some of the resources we have now. And we're always developing new ones. So just keep an eye on our writing sites.
And they're just incredible tools. I know I've had students who they get a writing assignment and they're totally overwhelmed, and they go to your website, to pointfirstwriting.com, and they just get a bit of a game plan of how to go about grappling with the questions that they've been asked to do and some strategies for how to do it. So a huge, important resource for our students. Okay, last couple of questions. What is one takeaway message that you want our listeners and first-year law students to remember about legal writing?
Okay, my best takeaway. Legal writing is fascinating and fun. Legal writing is not academic. It is all about problem solving, communicating practical answers to someone who needs help with an important task, whatever that might be. Clients need advice. You can help with clear, understandable explanations of the law and the next steps. Judges need to decide cases. You can help with clearly written, persuasive arguments that advance your client's interests. Policymakers need help to know what solutions to choose from. You can help with a thorough, thoughtful, clear, logical analysis. Nothing you write past law school is going to be academic or theoretical, unless you go into academia. There are real people who will depend on your ability to communicate something important to their lives in writing. So never forget, you're writing for a reader, not yourself.
Such great advice. So in keeping with our tradition of the podcast, I wondered if you both had some advice for our first-year law students.
Okay, Professor Zweibel here. I'll start. First of all, let me tell you, I've been around for a long time. I've been teaching at the law school for over 35 years, and I've read a lot of students' applications, and I know you are all capable people. with lots of past accomplishments to build on, and that's important. You are now all novices again, and that's okay. Expect to struggle a bit. That's how you really learn. Use the feedback you get deliberately to focus on the next time without regret on what you did last time. And remember, you have lots of accomplishments. That's what you're building on. And please, don't bother with other people's outlines and case summaries. Make your own.
All right. And I want to suggest that you take writing seriously. If you can't write, you can't be a good lawyer. It's as simple as that. So we're here to help. Take advantage of every offering the Legal Writing Academy has for you. Learn now in this very safe, supported space. But for the rest of your career, you're going to work at constantly improving your legal writing skills. But here, you can make the best start now.
Well, Professor Zweibel and Professor McRae, thank you so much for being on our podcast today and for teaching our students about the exciting opportunities that await them in the Legal Writing Academy. You've been listening to an episode of the Orientation Podcast series from the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section. You can subscribe to the Orientation Podcast series on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube with closed captioning, or wherever you are listening to this episode right now. If you are a first-year University of Ottawa Faculty of Law student, you can also find additional sources at the Orientation 2020 Brightspace page. Thank you for listening, and we can't wait to meet you soon. This episode has been produced by Tech Law Fellow June Gleed.